Hi everyone, I'm filling in today for the Courageous Woman video today for Leanne. My name is Lana. I'm here at the Uinta County Heritage Museum. So today I picked a lady. We didn't know much about her. She's been interesting to learn about. Her name is Emma Alice Hoyt Hayes Morrill. That's a big mouthful. Let me turn the thing around so we can show you a picture of her. If I can figure out how to do it, it's right here. There she is. So this was taken about 1930. So excuse me, I have some notes. I'm not used to memorizing this stuff. I kind of decided to do this at the last minute. So she was born in August 8, 1870 in the Denver, Colorado area. She was born to Francis Eugene and Adele Dodds Hoyt. Her family was quite well off. Her mom took them to visit a sister. She has a younger sister. Her mother went to Richfield, Utah to visit her sister and took the two girls with her. That's where she become known to the church. She found the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. When her mother and her sister and her went back to Denver, they joined the church there. In 1875, her father decided to move them to California. And a few years later, their father died in California. And her mother decided to move them back to the Richfield area so she would be close to family, and that's where her sister was at. In 1886, when she was 16 years old, she started teaching school in Sigurd, Utah. That's a small community. And she always wanted to be an educator, and educating is what she did all her life. In 1890, at the age of 20, she was elected president of the Women's Suffrage Association of Sevier County. So here in a couple of days, they're having the big convention unveiling thing at the Capitol for the women's suffrage movement and celebrating the first woman voter here in Utah. I found it interesting to be so young and part of that, the WSA. She also at the convention wrote an address speech for that convention. It's really interesting to learn about and read. It was quite powerful. In 1892, around there, she was teaching at the Sevier Stake Academy. Any of the stake academies were church or schools started by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saint. This is where she met her first husband, Isaac Hayes. Isaac was called to Mexico in the Juarez, Chihuahua area to oversee and become the first principal of the Stake Academy down there. She later went down and married him in Mexico. He died 2 years later, and he died a week before their daughter Rose, was born. I can't imagine how awful that would be to lose your husband and then have your firstborn child all by yourself in Mexico. She decided to move back to Utah, and in the winter she taught school. In the summers she went to school, and she went to BYU and the University of Utah. She became a psychologist. She was known for that in the school, not that she pursued it very much. She liked being a teacher. In 1894, she was elected to be the superintendent of the Paiute County School District. So then in 1899, she met her second husband, Horace Morrill, and he worked down in the Washington County area. He was kind of like a irrigation specialist. He was an engineer, that type of person. He laid out canal systems, that kind of stuff. They decided to move to So Horace was a widower. He had 4 children from his first wife who had passed away from an illness. And she had Rose. So when she married him, they had 5 children, and then they went ahead and she had 6 more children with Horace. So a total of 11 children in that family between the 2 marriages. In 1909, they decided to move to Vernal, Utah. And then in 1910, they moved to Tridell. At the time, Tridell was called Liberty, and I always forget that Tridell was called Liberty. When they went to apply for the post office in Tridell, they couldn't use Liberty because Liberty, Utah was already taken by another town named Liberty, Utah. So they had to come up with another name, and they had a couple of options, but they went with Tridell because of the 3 dells in the area. Horace went to help with the first church in Tridell. He created the Paradise Dam, the irrigation system down in this whole area. So without his knowledge of irrigation, canal systems, etc., putting in the dams, putting in the reservoirs, putting in the ponds, it would have been a long time before the Tridell area and on down from Tridell could have a good irrigation system for their crops. So she loved teaching. In fact, she was teaching till the day she died. She died in 1935. She was teaching in Tridell. She taught 19 years in the Tridell school system. In that time, she loved to write poetry. In fact, this is how we come to know about her. I'm going to throw a book up here. This was done by her family. It's called The Collected Writings of Alice Morrill from 1871 to 1935. So up to the day she died. She wrote for numerous church magazines: The Children's Friend, The Era, The Improvement Era, The Instructor, The Juvenile Instructor. She taught Sunday school. She was Young Women's President. She was held many positions in the church from the time she became a member of the church. Many things. She wrote a poem for the UBIC. That is the Uinta Basin in convention that we still have, industrial convention that we still have here in the basin. She wrote many poems, many things for newspapers, lots of articles. There is a poem here I'd like to read. This is the one that she wrote for the UBIC paper, which also ended up being published in the Happy Homeland publication. She called it Utah's Eastern Empire, and I'm not good at reciting poetry, but I'll do the best I can, because it reminds me of where we're at and why we choose to live here. So it's Utah's Eastern Empire. At the foot of the old Uintas, sparkling with lakes and rills, lies Utah's Eastern Empire, grit round with purple hills. Broad stretches of the vale and benchlands rest virgin beneath the sun, while through their lowland basins the rushing rivers run. And those who delve in this empire say that brooding over all is a spirit whispering softly to those who heed its call. 'Tis the spirit of the homelands. It rises from the soil, and it lives for those who struggle and breathes for those who toil. And to those who've caught that spirit, though rugged the way appears, comes courage, hope, contentment, and faith in the future years. And these will build the empire with courage brave and high, will build this inland empire neath Utah's eastern sky. And so true back then in 1928 when she wrote this for the Uinta Basin Industrial Convention. I feel it's what we do today and how we live today. I hope you've enjoyed this. Leanne will be back again next week. If you want to learn about Alice Morrill, come in to the History Center or the museum. Also, this book I showed you is for sale. It come in for our used book sale. A lot of awesome poems in here and a little bit about her life. I'm sure her family worked really hard to put this publication together to remember all her writings that she done. And we're grateful for being a teacher, and good luck with school coming up. Thank you.